There's something sitting in almost every kitchen right now. It's in your pantry. It might be on your counter. You've probably used it today without even thinking about it. And here's the strange part. Nobody warned you about it when you turned 50. Nobody sat you down and said, hey, after this birthday, your body is going to respond to this very differently. Because the truth is, after 50, one ingredient that most people consider completely harmless starts doing something quietly damaging. Not all at once, not in a way you'd notice tomorrow, but slowly, steadily, in your joints, your heart, your memory, your sleep. And if you've been feeling a little more tired than you used to, a little more stiff in the mornings, if your sleep isn't quite what it was, or your energy dips in the afternoon for no real reason, there's a good chance this one ingredient is involved. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what it is, why it affects people over 50 so differently, and most importantly, what you can do about it starting today. Not a dramatic overhaul, not an expensive program, just one quiet, powerful change. Let's take this slowly, together. Most people, when they start feeling a little off after 50, assume it's just aging. And of course, some of it is. The body changes. That's real and honest and worth accepting. But here's what most people don't think to ask. Is there something I'm eating every single day that's making me feel worse than I need to? That question matters because there's a difference between aging and accelerated aging. There's a difference between feeling your age and feeling older than your age. And the research, real peer-reviewed research from universities and hospitals, has been pointing at one category of ingredient for years now. Not a fringe idea, not a wellness trend. The science is actually quite settled on this. The problem is that the information tends to stay in academic journals and medical conferences. It doesn't always make its way to the person standing in front of the grocery store shelf trying to decide what to buy for dinner. So let's change that today. Before we get to the name of the ingredient, I want to walk you through something. Because knowing the name isn't enough. You need to understand why your body after 50 responds to this so differently than your body at 30 did. Once you understand that, the whole picture becomes very clear. And once the picture is clear, making the change becomes almost natural. After 50, your body isn't broken. I want to be very clear about that, but it has changed in some important ways. Ways that affect how you process what you eat. The first thing that changes is inflammation response. When you're younger, your immune system handles small inflammatory triggers quickly. It sees something irritating. It reacts, it calms down, clean and efficient. After 50, that system becomes, let's say, a bit more reactive. It takes longer to settle down. It stays in a low-level state of alert more often. Scientists call this inflammaging, chronic low-grade inflammation that comes with age. It doesn't feel like a fever or a swollen ankle. It feels like heaviness, fatigue, brain fog, that kind of dull ache that's hard to explain. The second change is gut health. Your digestive system hosts trillions of bacteria, your microbiome. After 50, the diversity of that microbiome tends to decline. The protective bacteria that help you process food and regulate inflammation start to thin out. That means foods that your gut handled just fine at 40 can start causing problems at 60. More bloating, more discomfort, more inflammation triggered by food you'd never suspect. And the third change is insulin sensitivity. After 50, your cells don't respond to insulin as efficiently. This affects your energy, your weight, your mood, your sleep quality, and your long-term risk of several chronic conditions. These three shifts, inflammation, gut health, insulin sensitivity, they all connect to one ingredient. So what is it? It's added sugar, not fruit, not natural sugars from whole foods. Added sugar, the kind that gets put into food during processing or preparation. the kind that shows up in products you'd never expect to contain it. Now, I know what you might be thinking. I already knew sugar wasn't great. This isn't news. And you're right, sugar's reputation isn't exactly spotless. But what most people don't know is how specifically and how profoundly added sugar disrupts the three systems I just described: the inflammation response, the gut microbiome, and insulin sensitivity. In people over 50, it doesn't just affect people who eat dessert every night. It affects people who eat what looks like a reasonably healthy diet, but have added sugar quietly working through their system in sauces, in breads, in salad dressings, in yogurt, in cereals that are marketed as health foods. The average adult in the United States consumes about 17 teaspoons of added sugar per day. The recommended maximum is 6 to 9 teaspoons. That gap between what most people eat and what science recommends is where a great deal of silent damage happens. And after 50, your body has less room to absorb that damage without consequences. Let me walk you through what actually happens when added sugar enters your body, specifically after 50. When you eat added sugar, your blood glucose rises quickly. Your pancreas releases insulin to manage that rise. After years of doing this, and especially after 50, when insulin sensitivity has already declined, that response becomes less precise. Your cells start needing more insulin to do the same job. Your pancreas works harder. The extra glucose that doesn't get used gets stored, often as visceral fat, the kind that sits deep in the abdomen and is strongly linked to inflammation and cardiovascular risk. But here's what's less talked about. Added sugar directly feeds inflammation. It activates compounds in the body called cytokines, inflammatory messengers. When those messengers are constantly elevated, they affect everything from your joints to your arteries to the neurons in your brain. This is why people who reduce added sugar often report, within just a few weeks, less joint stiffness, clearer thinking, more stable energy, and better sleep. Not because of some magical effect, but because the background noise of inflammation has been turned down. And in the gut, added sugar feeds the less beneficial bacteria. It throws off the balance of your microbiome, reducing the diversity that keeps your digestive and immune system functioning well. When the gut is inflamed and imbalanced, it sends signals throughout the entire body. Scientists call it the gut-brain axis. What happens in your gut influences your mood, your cognition, your energy. This isn't theory. This is where the research is pointing consistently. Here's where it gets a little surprising. Most people think of sugar as the obvious stuff: the cake at the birthday party, the cookies, the soft drinks. And yes, those count, but they're not where most of your added sugar actually comes from. Because added sugar hides. It hides in the things you'd never suspect, the things that even feel healthy. Take pasta sauce in a jar, a very common pantry staple. Many popular brands contain 2 or 3 teaspoons of added sugar per half-cup serving. And who uses just half a cup? Salad dressings, the bottled kind, even the ones that sound light and fresh, many contain a full teaspoon or more per 2 tablespoons. Whole grain bread, the kind with the word healthy practically baked into the name. Check the label. Many popular brands list sugar in the first 5 ingredients. Flavored yogurt, including many marketed specifically to older adults for bone health, can contain as much sugar as a small candy bar. Granola, protein bars, smoothies from the shop around the corner, even some soups, even some chicken marinades. The food industry has a reason for this. Sugar makes things taste good instantly. It makes products shelf-stable. It drives repeat buying. None of that is in your interest as a consumer over 50 trying to feel your best. So how do you find it? Look at the ingredients list. Not just the nutrition fact. Any word ending in OSE is a sugar, sucrose, fructose, maltose, dextrose. Anything called syrup, anything called fruit juice concentrate. Learning to read that list changes everything. Now here's the part that I really want you to sit with, because we've talked about what sugar does, and that part can feel a little heavy. But this is where it gets genuinely hopeful. What happens when people over 50 meaningfully reduce their added sugar intake? In most cases, the first thing people notice is their energy. Not a dramatic surge, not the kind of energy you see advertised on supplement bottles. A quieter kind, a more consistent kind. You wake up and you feel ready. That afternoon slump, the one that hits around 2 or 3 o'clock, starts to ease. Within 2 to 3 weeks, many people notice changes in their joints. Stiffness that felt like just a fact of life, something to be accepted and worked around, begins to soften. Not disappear completely, but noticeably ease. Sleep quality tends to improve. When blood sugar isn't spiking and crashing through the night, the body rests more evenly. You spend more time in the deeper, more restorative stages of sleep. Brain fog, that frustrating sense of not being quite as sharp as you used to be, often improves as the inflammatory burden on the brain decreases. And emotionally, many people describe a kind of calm they hadn't expected, because blood sugar swings affect mood directly. When those swings level out, something settles. None of this happens overnight, but it begins within days, and it tends to be cumulative. It builds on itself over weeks and months. The body at any age has a remarkable capacity to respond to being treated well. Now, let's talk about the practical side, because I'm not here to tell you to never enjoy something sweet again. That's not what this is about. And honestly, that kind of all or nothing thinking is one of the main reasons people try to make changes and then give up within a week. This is about substitution, not deprivation. If you're used to sweetening your coffee or tea, try reducing the amount by half for 2 weeks first. Just half. Your taste buds adapt more quickly than you would expect. Usually within 10 to 14 days, things start tasting naturally sweeter. If you love something sweet in the afternoon, have a small piece of dark chocolate with 70% cacao or more. It satisfies the craving. It comes with antioxidants, and the sugar content is far lower than most alternatives. Fresh fruit, whole fruit, not juice, is your friend. The fiber in whole fruit slows sugar absorption and feeds the good bacteria in your gut. A bowl of berries is genuinely different from a glass of fruit juice biologically. For your pantry staples, start replacing the labeled versions with homemade or no added sugar alternatives over time. Make a simple pasta sauce from canned tomatoes, garlic, and olive oil. It takes 15 minutes and has almost no added sugar. Make your own salad dressing with olive oil, lemon juice, and a little Dijon mustard. These are not deprivations. They're upgrades. And as your palate adjusts, which it will, you'll find that you actually start to prefer things less sweet. Many people report this within 4 to 6 weeks. Your body will guide you once you give it the chance. I want to share a few things that people in their 60s and 70s have said after making this kind of change. These aren't dramatic before and after transformations. They're quiet, honest observations, the kind that tend to be more real than anything else. One woman, 67, said that after 6 weeks of reducing added sugar, she noticed she was sleeping through the night for the first time in years. She hadn't even made the connection at first. She thought her sleep problems were just part of getting older. A man in his early 70s who had been dealing with persistent knee stiffness said that within a month, he was walking his dog in the morning again. Not running, just walking, but without that familiar ache that had made him dread the first steps of the day. Another woman in her mid-60s said something that stayed with me. She said, "I feel like myself again." Not younger, not like some version of herself from decades ago. Just herself, present, clear. in her own body in a way that felt good. That is not a small thing. That is, in many ways, everything. Because that's what this is really about. Not a number on a scale, not a score on a blood test. It's about how you feel when you get up in the morning. It's about whether your days feel like something to move through or something to actually live. And that is well within reach for you right now, not at some future point when everything is perfectly in place. Right now with your next grocery trip, your next meal. So here's what I'd like to invite you to do. Not a 30-day program, not a full pantry clean out this weekend, just one small step starting today. Go to your kitchen, maybe after this video or later this afternoon, and pick up 3 things, just 3. 3 things you use regularly. Read the ingredients list on each one. Look for added sugar. Look for those -os words. Look for syrup. Look for juice concentrate. You might be surprised, or you might already know. Either way, you'll be looking at your kitchen with new eyes. And that is how real change begins. If you find something that has more added sugar than you expected, don't feel bad about it. The food industry has spent billions of dollars making sure that sugar is in almost everything and that you don't notice it. This isn't about blame, it's about awareness. And then, if you'd like, make one small swap this week, just one, a homemade version instead of the jarred one, plain yogurt with fresh fruit instead of the flavored kind, sparkling water with a slice of lemon instead of a sweetened drink. One change, 1 week, see how you feel. That's all I'm asking. Because in my experience, and in the experience of so many people who have made this particular change, that 1 week tends to lead to another, and then another. And somewhere along the way, you look back and realize that you've built something genuinely different. Not a diet, a way of living that happens to feel good. You've stayed with me all the way to the end of this, and I think that says something about you. It says that you care about how you feel, that you're still curious, that you're not willing to simply accept feeling worse than you need to. That's not a small thing, especially after 50, when the world sometimes tries to convince you that how you feel is inevitable, that it's just the way things are now. It isn't. Your body is responding to what you give it every single day. And while none of us can stop time, we have far more influence over how we age than most people realize. Added sugar is not the only thing that matters. But for many people over 50, it is the single most impactful place to begin. Because it's pervasive, because it's hidden, and because your body after 50 is particularly sensitive to what it does. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to give up every sweet thing you have ever loved. Just begin, gently, with curiosity instead of judgment, and pay attention to how you feel, not in 6 months, not at your next checkup, but in 2 weeks, in a month. Your body will tell you things. Learn to listen. Thank you for being here today. This was a conversation I genuinely wanted to have with you. Take good care of yourself. You deserve to feel well.